Okay, welcome back to the Are You Strong show. I got an awesome guest on the show today. But before I say his name, I want to give you a little bio on him, which is kind of neat. Graduated or went to Wagner College out in Long Island, I mean Staten Island,
Staten
and
Island. Yep.
where he played lacrosse, first team All-MAAC, two-time team captain, which I don't. That's got to be rare, especially today. Have be named captain twice, right? Um, Served on the SAC Executive Board, but then he made a decision to transfer, which we're going to talk about. But he transferred to Ohio State. It doesn't get any bigger in athletic programs in a school like that. But he goes from Wagner to Ohio State and becomes second team All Big Ten, which is an accomplishment in itself, and third team All-American. Now, I'm sure, I hope I got those stats right. But to go from Wagner, which is still a good school, to Ohio State and become all Big Ten, all American, and an academic scholar, right? That is where the rubber meets the road. This young man put time into the classroom as well as on the field. But then he goes and plays professional, which is cool. Played in the Premier Lacrosse League and won the championship with the Utah Archers, if I'm saying that right. And a midfielder for the team decides to stop playing professionally and give his career to student athletes. Where now he's working as an assistant athletic director down at Monmouth University, right here in sweet old New Jersey. Welcome to the show, Eli Fisher.
Thanks for having me, Jeff. I really appreciate the introduction. I'm looking forward to being here today.
Now, I don't know if I messed those accolades up, but yeah, I mean, you have a whole laundry list. I had to shorten it up because I'd be here for 20 minutes, listing all the things. But before I hit you with a ton of questions here, do me a favor, just tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me again. Thank you. My name's Eli Fisher. I go by Eli. Grew up right outside of Philadelphia in Delaware County from Prospect Park originally. Uh, Later went up to Allentown, Pennsylvania area where I went to Parkland High School. Following that, I went to Wagner College, as Jeff had mentioned, ended up there for 4 years, had a great experience. Very thankful for that. And then finished my playing career, at least at Ohio State. And then, went on for a little bit longer to play professionally. And here I am back in the mix, but on the other side of things. So,
And now you're putting your career, your devotion, your focus on helping the young men and women, at Monmouth University, you know. So I got a ton of things to ask you. We're gonna bounce around a little bit, okay? And
sounds
let's
good.
go backwards. And again, you're a young guy. You literally just got out of school and not too long ago, you know.
Yes, sir.
And but let's go back to when you were a younger kid. What drew you to lacrosse? Out of all the sports that are out there, you're a big guy. I met you in person. Did that sport suck you in?
Yeah, so I mean, lacrosse was the last choice for me, honestly. I grew up playing everything under the sun, really began to focus on football, basketball, and baseball for a while. Spent most of my childhood playing those three. And then going into eighth grade or freshman year, one of my teammates was like, hey, baseball's boring, baseball's slow. You should use your athleticism and come give lacrosse a try. So I did. And, I'm very thankful for that friend. We still talk every now and then, but just worked out. It was a perfect amalgamation of all the sports that I played and allowed me to really, utilize my athleticism to the best of my ability.
So when did you know? I mean, when did you start playing lacrosse? How old were you?
14-ish, somewhere in there, 14,
Okay.
15.
Okay. So when did you know you had the ability to play at the D1 level?
I didn't. That's the thing. I went through all of high school unrecruited. I got to, I want to say, the end of my junior year and started getting some D3 looks, which then led to me committing to Eastern University, which is a small Division III school down in right outside of Philadelphia on the
Yep.
main line. Um, I was committed there for almost all of my senior year, and then my senior season rolled around, and I had a few people, one of my very supportive coaches, Coach Bender, in my ear telling me that I was capable of more and that I should, try to reevaluate my options and see what else is out there. He felt that I was being complacent. And for me, not being too engaged in the lacrosse world yet, I've only been there for 4 years at that time. I was just happy to have an opportunity.
Yeah.
Um, and then, one thing led to another, and I decommitted and was able to end up with an opportunity at Wagner from Coach McCutcheon.
Now, how did the coach at Eastern handle that?
He was very supportive of me, I will say.
Okay.
Obviously, it's tough to lose a recruit.
Yeah.
I know that now, being on the other side of things, working in an athletic department, how much of an impact that can have on a team.
Yeah.
But he was supportive of me and knew that me making the jump from Division 3 to Division 1 was, whether it was on the cards then or it was down the road, he figured that I would make that leap at some point. So he was happy for me and didn't scold me in any way, and supported that transition.
Good. So how did Wagner come into the picture?
Wagner came into the picture through a conversation with my coach. He had known Bill McCutcheon, who was my head coach at Wagner. He was there for half of the season before he recruited me. So I was Coach McCutcheon's only recruit in my class.
Really?
Everyone else that I went in with freshman year was recruited by the previous coaching staff. So, that was unique in itself. Gave me a different kind of responsibility, I'd say,
Yeah.
within the team and within the culture building that Coach Mack had planned and set on. But it worked out. So.
Yeah, it sure did. So what was that recruiting process like for you? Like when you met him for the first time, was it like, hey, love at first sight, I'm coming? Or was it like, hey, you know what, we're going to talk about this a couple of times and before I make my decision?
Yeah, no. So he really took a chance on me. I was 2, 3 weeks away from graduating. Maybe he came and saw me play in one of my senior playoff games. We were just gearing up, to go to districts and whatnot, and he was able to see me play one time, and I must have made a good enough impression on him for him to take a chance on me and give me an opportunity to come visit and whatnot. And I'd say by the time I was walking off of campus, I was already committed.
You're in.
Um, oh yeah, oh yeah. I mean, it wasn't, it was like nothing else I've experienced up until that point. So
Yeah.
to be there, to be in a new place, to be able to see the facilities and be a part of that, and like, mind you, I'm a week away from graduation at this point, so
Yeah.
school's not really in the picture for me anymore, like high school at least. So I couldn't go back and like tell my buddies like, yo, I got to do this and that. Like
Yeah.
it was really individual and pretty solo experience outside of the support from my family and coaching staff.
That must have been awesome. Now, how was your family involved a lot, or was this like a decision you made on your own?
A little bit of both. My parents always supported me, no matter what. They were supportive of any and every decision that I make, which I'm very thankful for. I wouldn't be here today without them or anyone else in my support system, for that matter. But I'd say they were right with me the whole way. They were
Yep.
taking the visits with me, making the drive for me, so that I didn't have to. Taking me to see these two schools that gave me these chances.
Yep.
So getting me there and doing what they could.
All right. So you walk on campus, 18-year-old, right?
Yes, sir.
And now you're walking around with these big guys who are probably a little bit bigger than you, maybe a little bit faster than you at the time, maybe not, but maybe they're definitely more experienced at the game than you are. Tell me
Definitely.
what that transition was like coming from high school to the D1 level.
Yeah, it was elite, and granted, like Wagner, we were lower level Division 1, but still Division 1 nonetheless. And when I got there, I felt like I couldn't catch and throw, like I felt like I had to restart with the basics and just kind of relearn everything, rehone my skills. Luckily, I had, great captains and great upperclassmen who really supported me in my growth as an athlete. I mean, I ended up starting as a freshman. I started in our first game my freshman year. So I was fortunate in that aspect to be kind of, molded by the people around me. But definitely wasn't easy. Definitely made a lot of mistakes along the way, and, had the support of my people. So.
Great. So how about adversity? Any adversity you face, injuries, mental challenges, in that transition?
Oh yeah, all the above. I mean, moving away from home can be challenging. I definitely was I was okay with it. I wasn't that was easy for me. That was probably the easiest part of it all. The biggest challenge for me early on was academics.
Yeah.
I went in and got a 2.06 my freshman year and was
Oh,
like, yeah, in a bad spot. Found a way to pass and get right, and had a serious conversation with coach, and he checked me and told me like, if you continue on like this, you're not going to find success in at the Division I level or at the collegiate level at all. So,
or
and
in
that
life.
really, yeah, exactly. If you can't do more than the bare minimum, how can you expect to succeed?
Yeah.
So that was the biggest challenge for me, I'd say, and that led to me completely flipping and being a 3.0 or higher, 3.5 every semester after that.
Wow.
So
Good for
yeah, it
you.
was absolutely. I mean, it wasn't easy, but it needed to
Yeah.
be done.
Hey, nothing worth doing is easy.
Absolutely.
It's funny that experience. I had a similar experience my freshman year. I didn't do it. I was probably the same ballpark as you. And I'll never forget my position coach called me in. He's like, "You gets any lower, you're not playing. You can't play." And
Absolutely.
and I'm like really? And what he said to me goes, "What do you think you're going to be play in the NFL?" It's literally what he said. And like I'm an 18-year-old kid thinking like, why not? You
Right.
know? And he's like, if you don't get this together, you're going to have a difficult time in life. That's literally what he said, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa. And like he said, he put me in check. And then he became the kind of coach that constantly checked in. How you doing? How you doing? How you doing? Let's look at your grades. Let's look at what's going on. And I think it's when I found somebody who cared more than I did about where I was
Hmm.
going, I felt like I couldn't let him down.
Agreed.
You know what I mean? And instead of worrying about
Absolutely.
myself, I'm like more worried about him, about what he thinks of me. And if he wants better for me, I better want better for myself. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I can
Yeah.
relate to that 100%.
Yeah. So then I didn't turn around to 3.5 and that kind of stuff, but I turned it around.
That's all that matters, right?
That's all that matters, right? So you're a two-time captain there. Now, is that team voted? Is that coach voted or a combination of the two?
It was team voted. So my peers voted, made those decisions.
Twice.
Yes, sir.
Now, how often does that happen?
Wouldn't say it happens a lot. I've seen it. I saw it at Ohio State, or after me at Ohio State. One of the guys there now is a two-time captain. So, it's not impossible.
Yeah. You know, I love when I hear that when the team votes versus the coaches appoint. Because
Right.
sometimes, as well as I do, sometimes it's just a popularity contest from the coaches, who the coaches like. Now,
Hmm.
are they all doing that? No, but sometimes you feel it as a player,
Absolutely.
But when your team votes you, that's something special. And they do it
Yeah.
twice. Like
Definitely
how did that
rewarding.
make you feel?
I mean, I was proud, but like I wouldn't be there without those guys, So like the same people who are putting my name on that ballot are the same people who helped me grow into the leader that I was, that I am. And a lot of it had to do with my mindset. We didn't win a lot of games, but there was nobody on my team that would outwork me. I would push our younger guys to be the best versions of themselves. I was really a mentor to a lot of the younger guys because that's what it took for me to succeed. So that was really my main goal as a leader, was to help build the team culture, create, an uncomfortable environment that bred comfortability, so like everybody
Yeah.
talks about it's good to be, you got to be comfortable being uncomfortable, and by pushing people to be the best version of themselves, you create that kind of environment. So I feel as though that may be some of the reasons.
Yeah.
Um, I know also a lot of the guys I was very personable with, and I would go out of my way to make sure that they felt supported. Because me as a freshman, my head was spinning. So how can I support these freshmen and
Yeah.
sophomores as they start their journeys through collegiate athletics?
Yeah. I was going to just ask, and you kind of just said it, but what do you think your biggest challenge was as a captain with your team? You kind of just mapped it out, but does anything stand out like, man, this was a tough thing to do as a captain?
Like it took me a while to formulate my voice. I often found it easy to lead by example just because of who I was and what I wanted for myself. I've been told by my teammates that I was an easy guy to follow because I was doing the right things on and off the field. So that part of it came easy. The part that didn't come easy was being vocal, telling guys when they need to get their stuff together, um, checking individuals, things of that nature. But we had a good balance. I had a great captain with me for both of those years that I was there. He was also a two-time captain, so just a lot of veterans that
Yeah.
helped shape the way and pave the way, and then led to us being able to kind of recreate it and mold it into our own thing. So
I wonder if that was a first, two-time captains at the same time.
potentially,
What?
definitely could have been.
No, that's got to be super rare,
Yeah,
right? That's got to be
yeah,
really
that
rare.
that may be a little more rare.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. We'll just stay at Wagner first. Most memorable moment there. What stands out? It could be lacrosse wise, school wise, event wise, craziness wise. Like, what's your most memorable moment over there?
Hmm. I would say so. I played on both sides of COVID, before and after COVID, played before and after NIL. So, that in itself created a lot of interesting dynamics on and off the field.
Yep.
I'd say like the most memorable thing was being on campus as a student athlete and being the only person on campus during that COVID experience.
They
It kind
ghosted.
of, yeah, to say the least. It's us and all the other athletes, and we're looking at each other like, where's everybody else? But that experience, created a lot of responsibility and created a lot of adversity for a lot of people in a lot of different ways. You know what I mean? People
Yeah.
were struggling with the isolation and things of that nature. People struggled with the social aspect, not being able to get out, talk, mingle, whatever that looks like. And
Yeah.
so that was like one of the biggest challenges, that we faced. But it
Yeah.
was also one of the highlights because it brought us together as a team. We anything that we went through together always. Every team does, or at least they
Mhm.
should. So
Yep.
like it really bred accountability within our locker room and within our culture. So
Well, let's talk about that for a second. Um, let's talk about joint suffering, right?
yeah,
Preseason lacrosse. I call it joint suffering. Preseason, anything preseason is joint suffering, right? And
oh
you're
yeah,
smiling because you know what I'm talking about. But
absolutely.
without COVID, it's different. With COVID, I can't even imagine what that was like. Can you talk about the difference between preseason COVID, preseason no COVID?
Yeah, so preseason COVID, like I said, I was a freshman, so I was very young in my experiences, but I've already been there for 5, 6 months at that point. We felt great going into season. Things we were 1-5 by the time the COVID shutdown came along, so like that was not ideal, but the leading up to that was special. It was my first time on a college campus, my first time preparing for a college season, and reality set in. Like practices got harder, things picked up, guys started to care more. The effort that wasn't there in the fall started to show up, and it
Yeah.
took that playing at that level became a lot more serious in the preseason. And then
I can't imagine what that's like, COVID.
yeah, yeah, it was wild. I mean, going past COVID on the back end, the next my sophomore year preseason, we're getting tested 3 times a week, 2 times a week. Practicing with masks under our helmets. Guys can't breathe.
Oh
Guys are
my
passing
God.
out. Things of that nature. Like it was a mess. Things were all over the place. But at the end of the day, like I said, we always had each other, and
Yeah.
we were all fighting towards that same goal. So it made it a little bit easier going through all those challenges and all that adversity.
Yeah. Do you think that team is tighter than your other teams?
I wouldn't say tighter. We definitely spent a lot more time together than a lot of other teams may have, but
Yeah.
it didn't necessarily breed tighter relationships than any of my other experiences did.
Right. Okay. So I heard you picked up a hobby,
What's that?
uh, tattoos.
Yeah, I dabbled a little bit, a
Well,
little more
I,
than
I
I
heard
should
you
have.
dabbled on yourself.
Yeah, my legs covered.
So talk about like I saw the ones you have on your arm. Did you do those too or no?
No, no, I got these done. I drew all the ones on my arm, but I didn't do them myself.
So how do you do that? How do you tattoo yourself? That's gotta hurt.
Yeah, it wasn't my best decision, but I love it. I wouldn't change it for the world. I'm
Yep.
artistically minded. I appreciate art. I enjoy art in all facets. So I mean I was inspired by my neighbors and close family friends growing up who have a lot of tattoos, and I saw some things similar to what I did,
Yeah.
on my leg, and I watched them tattoo themselves, and that kind of led to me doing it myself down 18, 20 years later. But
Yeah. Now, but how do you do that? Like I understand if the tattoo person is tattooing you and you're feeling the pain, he's not.
right,
So
right.
how do you do it and stay steady and feel the pain at the same time?
Well, I'd say like it's a little easier when you're doing it yourself actually, because you know your own pain tolerance. You know what I mean? Like you can get a tattoo artist with a heavy hand who's gonna tear you up, and you just got to sit through it because you can't take a break when you want to. So like doing my own stuff kind of gave me the freedom to start and stop when I wanted to. Gave me, if I wanted to go a little lighter with my hand, I could, things of
Yeah.
that nature. So
So you got both legs done?
just my left one, left leg, left arm.
What's on the I saw the arm, which is really cool. What's on the leg? What do you got down there?
Whole bunch of stuff. I mean, there's dates, there's things that mean absolutely nothing that like my teammates picked. Like that'd be funny if you got that. I've got some stuff that means a little bit more to me as well. So it's a mix of everything, but
It's
a
like a
lot of
storybook.
oh yeah, oh yeah.
What's next?
We'll see, we'll see. I still got to finish my arm sleeve, so that'll probably be next, but not
All
sure what I'm
right.
getting yet.
Now, do you think that's a additional career for you?
Nah, no shot.
No,
I'm
just
I'm not that good.
no, no.
Nah, not
All
at
right.
all.
All right. So, Wagner, you wake up one day and you say, okay, it's time to transfer. So
Yeah.
walk us through that moment. How did that happen? What was the motivation behind it?
So, every athlete's dream is to play at the highest level, right? I obviously was fortunate enough to make it there, but I wouldn't have had I not, you know, jumped ship, some might say. But for me, I felt as though like I had put my time in at Wagner, the time that I committed to. I'm a man of my word. I stand on my word. So I gave them my 4 years that I had committed to. After sitting down with my coach, Mark Solchanik, and Bill McCutcheon, they really helped me and supported me in my decision. They were like, obviously, we'd love to have you back. We'd do anything we can. We'd support you in any way possible to bring you back. But we also know that there's more out there for you. And they were completely, from start to finish, from the day I got on campus to the day that I left campus, supported me in that decision. Um, in terms of the Ohio State side of things, that was interesting. I got a call one morning at like 7 a.m. and hung up. We're getting ready for graduation, so classes aren't going on. I'm trying to sleep in. Calls me back. I'm like, hello, I'm a little drowsy, whatever. And he's like, hey, this is Coach Crane from Ohio State. And that was how things started. And then from there, conversations, visits, and the rest.
So you put your name in the portal. I mean, was the phone ringing off the hook?
It was, but it wasn't from who I necessarily wanted it to be from.
Yeah.
It was against all the mid-major schools that I've played against that have seen me play. I didn't want to make a lateral jump,
Yeah.
like going from a school in the NEC to another school in the NEC or the MAC to the MAC,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
So that was the biggest thing for me. If there was only lateral options, I would have 100% went back to Wagner to finish what I started per se.
Okay.
But
So what was that transfer process like then? So he wakes you up out of a sleep, right, and says, "Hey, this is the coach," and now you start talking. How many meetings, conversations, visits did it take before you said, "Okay, I'm going there"?
Yeah, I mean, so it was crunch time, like I'm graduating in a few days at this point, and they're trying to get their recruiting done for the year. So they gave me a call and were like, we're definitely interested. My eyes lit up right away. I can't believe it. It's like a dream come true. Um, Next thing I know, I'm out there less than a week later for an on-campus visit. I did my tour, had a great experience, great opportunity to, spend a few couple days out there. Um, and then before I even left campus, I told Coach Myers, I looked him in his face as I shook his hand and said, thank you for everything. And just said, I'm all in if you'll have me, and he loved that. So by the time before I arrived home in Pennsylvania, I got a call back and was like, how's it going? We'd love to have you. Welcome to the family. So,
It's a big family.
oh yeah, it's pretty surreal.
So, okay, so same question about Wagner, but now you're 22, right? So you're 22, you had the COVID years, which gave you extra year eligibility. Now you're walking on not just to a team of older guys, because now they're all most of them are younger than you, but it's a different level. So talk about that experience. How were you perceived? How were you received? What was it like walking in and building a name, a brand of your own with complete strangers now?
That it was challenging. It was challenging. I will say that. Although it wasn't challenging in the ways that you would think. I had no problem fitting in with the team, had no problem with all that stuff. The problem that I had was with myself and doubting myself, in that position. Like
Mm.
I was nervous as I prepared, but I did have a great summer. I went out there 2 weeks after I graduated from Wagner. I moved to Columbus and stayed there all the way basically until I graduated. So I was able to, kind of acclimate, get used to their system, how they do things, the speed that they operate at through our summer boom program. I put on 30 pounds, which was unreal as a 22-year-old, at the closer to the tail end of my career, adding another 30 pounds just
It's a
created a
lot.
beast in me. And yeah,
Yeah.
allowed me to really make that transition from the MAC to the Big Ten.
Yeah. How much of that 30 pounds have you lost now? A little bit?
At all. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Got to get back on
All right.
it.
So this is a great. I'm really glad you had the comfort to bring that up. You had the confidence in yourself to transfer out of Wagner. You want big time. You want big D1. You show up to big D1. Coaches believe in you, but then now you have the doubt, like you said. How did you work through that, to get to the point where the doubt was gone?
I drowned the doubt out with hard work, I'd say. I was there to play. That's it. I'm on my last year. I got to make a difference, not just for me, but for the team that I'm now a part of. So if I didn't want to go there and be, a wasted roster spot, I didn't want to go there and sit the bench. My goal was to play. And, no matter how much I may have doubted myself or become, a little nervous about what might happen, how things may shake out, I knew that I had a job to do and that it was to be on that field and make a difference. So really just, putting my head down and getting to work was the best way for me to kind of work through that.
So what's the difference between Wagner and Ohio State? The game's the game. Tell me the difference that you saw. Hey, I'm here at Ohio State. Are they bigger, faster, smarter? Like what's going on that field that wasn't happening in Wagner?
Yeah, I mean the IQ piece, higher IQ in terms of lacrosse IQ, that is, um, bigger, faster, stronger. That comes with the territory and the resources that are provided to Big Ten student athletes that MAC and NEC student athletes may not have access to.
Yeah.
So there's obviously that. Um, the competition was crazy different. Naturally,
Now
I
Big
play.
Ten's probably the best lacrosse conference out there.
It's up there, yeah. So it's like Big Ten, ACC, kind of
Yeah.
depends. Everybody has a different viewpoint on that
Yeah.
depending on where you played.
Right.
But yeah, no. I mean, I was fortunate enough. I played most of the top 10 in my year there. So like, it's a dream come true. I got to play the Hopkins. I got to play the Marylands. I played Virginia, like all these blue blood schools who have
Yeah.
been and established programs in the Division I lacrosse world. And,
Yeah.
to be on that stage was just a dream, and not to only be there, but to excel. So,
Yeah. How about Duke? Did you guys play Duke?
nah, we did not
No.
play Duke in my year out there.
You played Penn State though.
Played Penn
Right.
State.
How'd that
Yes,
go?
sir. We lost by a couple.
Ugh. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're really good too, right?
Yeah.
So academics. Did you have a problem in Ohio State like you had in the beginning of Wagner, or you had it all figured out, no problem?
No, I'd figured it out by that point. Went in, got like, I want to say 3.5 plus both my semesters there. So no real concerns. I also didn't have as much class because, I was a fifth year senior,
Yeah.
got to I pursued a post grad certificate. So it was very low course load.
Yeah.
I was all online. So when I was out there, I felt like I was a professional athlete. I was waking up,
Yeah.
going to practice, spending my days in the facility, just doing everything I can to kind of be the best version of myself on the field.
Yeah. Well, hey, listen, come on, you know as well as I do. Guys at that level, Big Ten level, they are professional athletes. They're just
Yeah.
playing for a team that's still in school. And in reality, if you really look at it, it's the college ranks now, they're the minor leagues for everybody.
Absolutely.
Which is really cool. How about facilities? What were the facilities like at Ohio State? When you walked in that locker room, was it like, holy crap, this is how other guys live and play? Or what was the difference?
Yeah, I couldn't even believe it. Like my locker room was in the basement, and we were all shoulder to shoulder like this when I was at Wagner. And I come in here, there's couches, there's everything, this, that, and the third. But they take care of you. I had everything that I needed and everything that I wanted. I was very very fortunate to be a Buckeye. So
How was the gear?
it's great. Got some on right now.
That's why I said it, right? I mean, they give
Absolutely.
you a ton, don't they?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Got a little more than I got at Wagner, but
Yeah,
it was, I wasn't there for the gear at the end of the day. I was there to play, there to
of
win, there to
course.
make a difference. So,
But the gear helps, you
oh,
know.
it's a plus, and I'm happy I have it now. Don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
because
Oh yeah. So how about this? Injuries. You know, anything serious you faced?
end of my sophomore year, I struggled a little bit with injuries, and honestly throughout my career, with minor stuff, but most of the time it was, a torn hamstring, torn glute, something like that. That kind of, bred some adversity, but nothing crazy. I was able to come around it, play through it, whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
End of my sophomore year, I tore my PCL and meniscus in my knee, and it was unknown. I went on, was like, my knee was hurting. I was doing treatment, this, that, and the third, played a few more games on it, and then it went. And that was my season, but it was luckily, I only missed our last game, was able to rehab and do what I
Yeah.
needed to through the summer to come back healthy in the fall. So
Yeah. Man,
that
I'll
was
tell
the
you,
biggest.
I can't tell you how many guys I've or girls I've interviewed and talked to that they tell me the same thing. Well, it was missed. Oh, they didn't catch it. Oh, we didn't know. Even though
Yeah,
they told the trainer, the coach, whoever, like 12 times, this is killing me.
right.
And whatever. And I just wonder, sometimes I wonder, like, are they just hoping you can play through it and worry about it later?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on the situation. It's like if I couldn't walk and I couldn't do this, that, or whatever,
Yeah.
and I didn't look like myself on the field, there might have been a little more concern.
Yeah.
The thing is that like I was just taking Advil and playing through it, figuring it
Yeah.
out. My team needed me, so there I was. There was no question about it to me. I wanted to be on the field. Sitting
Yep.
on the bench is one of the most painful things to do as an athlete. So,
Oh my God.
um, that's worse than any injury in
Yeah.
itself. So to still be out there and to still be able to make a difference was what mattered to me. And
Yeah.
then I did it until I couldn't anymore.
I mean, there's always that question, right? Are you injured or are you hurt?
Absolutely.
Because sometimes, you got to play with a little bump and bruise, and there's some guys
100%.
that can't play, won't, they can, but they won't play through that, you
Yeah.
know?
I mean, it's tough to find success if you don't, play through a bump or a
Oh
bad
yeah.
day,
Or
like
torn
it's
hamstring, right?
absolutely. And like, that's kind of going to Ohio State. So the knee and everything happened end of my sophomore year. I get to Ohio State, have a great summer. Like I said, put on 30 pounds. We're 2 weeks into our you know, fall ball. And I tore my glute. So I missed, went from being top of the depth chart after working my ass off all summer, doing what I can, trying my best, finally make it there, crack the depth chart. Top two guys. And then I tore my glute. That set me back. I missed the entire fall, didn't get to play in any of our fall scrimmages, and just was focused on rehab. So it was basically like it was a mental reset for me, which was
Yeah.
challenging because
Yeah.
but it really allowed me to focus on the X's and O's, learn the new defense, learn the new communication keys and things of that nature, get with the coaches, watch the film that I needed to, because, the ball moves faster in the Big Ten than it did in the MAC. So for me to keep up, not just physically, but mentally, I had to put in work there too. So as much as it sucked going through that, as soon as I earned or felt like I'd earned a spot and earned the heart of my teammates, to go down, but it did create some good on the back end.
All right. So were you ever close to, hey, I'm like burning out here?
Yeah.
With all the it maybe the injury, the classroom, the years, like did you ever get close to that?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, like 5 years is a long time,
Yeah.
and to do it at that level for that long can be tiring, exhausting, dreadful at times, even for some people. It was for myself at times, like I woke up knowing how privileged I was to be a Division I student athlete, and that's what got me through my day most of the time. But there were days when I wanted to do nothing but sleep, you
Yeah.
know. I'm tired, I'm beat up, I'm feeling sorry for myself, and I had to get up and do it. So
So what advice can you give to the young guys now that are dealing with that they want to stay in bed? Like, how do you fight through it?
absolutely. I mean, for me, like I always, I'm the oldest of three. Um, I like to think of myself as a good role model for my siblings, or I try my best to be a good role model for my siblings. Um, and I always think of my little brother. He's 9.5 years younger than me. So there's a marginal gap between us. And what would he think if I quit? That's really what kept me going.
Yeah.
Was if my little brother sees me quit now, what's he going to amount to? He's going to think it's all right that that you can quit whenever you want, whenever you feel tired. And that's obviously not what I wanted. Along with that, a lot of conversations with people who supported me and cared for me, um, and just focusing on the task at hand. Be where your feet are, because like you got so much going on in your head, so much going on around you. But if
Yeah.
you just be where your feet are and focus on the one thing that you're doing in that exact moment and do it to the best of your ability, there's nothing that's going to stop you. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I'd say that's the best advice I could give, just to be present in every moment and in everything that you do.
Stay focused.
Absolutely.
So how old's your younger brother now?
He is 15 years old. He's a sophomore in high school.
All right. Is he a lacrosse guy?
He's a lacrosse, basketball, football player.
All right. Well, has he got a shot?
He's got a shot.
All right. Does he want to follow in your footsteps?
We'll see. That's his decision to make. I'll support him in whatever it is that makes him happy, whether
Yeah.
that's a lacrosse field, basketball court, football field, or no field.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable with it, and I just want to see him succeed and
Yeah.
continue to grow into the great young man that he is.
Now, what advice have you been giving him about the classroom? Anything?
Yeah, yeah. I've been telling him to get his stuff together. It starts now and
Yeah.
it doesn't end until you graduate with that piece of paper. So,
Yeah.
just telling him that like it may not seem important as a sophomore in high school, but when you're a senior in high school and coaches are looking at your grades, it's very important.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And yeah, I faced adversity through high school, so like my grades even then weren't the best. So
Right. Well, you had no one to follow.
right. I mean, I did have to learn a lot for myself. I have my parents, always support me, but they're your parents. You don't
Yeah.
always want to listen to them.
Right. 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 So, who's a better athlete at 15?
My brother, hands down.
All right.
Yeah, yeah, he is so much potential. I'm excited to see where it takes him, but like I said, that's his decision to make. So
All right. Well, I'm sure he'll make a good one.
yeah, maybe he'll be on here in a couple years.
There you go. Right. That's a great idea. That's a great decision.
Absolutely.
You know. So, okay. So you finish 5 years of college, 5 years of lacrosse, beating the crap out of yourself for 5 years, mentally and physically. Then you say, okay, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to go
Yeah.
play professionally. How did that happen? What was the inspiration, motivation, for that?
yeah. So again, I doubted myself. Didn't think I was going to get a call. Didn't think I was gonna make it. I went undrafted in the draft. Was packing my things up, calling it a career, about to hang the cleats up, and I got a call from the Denver Outlaws, and they gave me an invite to training camp. I went there, went to training camp, really struggled through training camp mentally with whether I fit in, whether it was what I wanted. Dream come true. Don't get me wrong, but there was a lot more to it than that. And then day 3 of training camp, I got cut, and thought that was it. Again, thought that was it. Ready to
How did you
ready to
handle
get out
that?
of there.
How did you handle, because you've never been cut in your life.
Never.
You've struggled mentally to go from one level to another just because you did it to yourself. But now
Hmm.
somebody tells you you're not good enough. How do you handle
Yeah.
that?
It tore me up at first. I was on the phone with my parents. I was calling my coaches saying like, I'm out of here. This isn't it. I'm not going to make it through this week of training camp. Whatever else. I was like, I knew it. I felt like I knew it. I was like, damn, like this is really hard to get through. And
Yeah.
like I said, I was ready to quit. I was packing my things up, and I had a great call with Coach Myers, and he said, see it through. And Coach Myers is my head coach at Ohio State. He said, see it through. You never know what'll happen. Um, sure enough, I was the first one taken in the redraft, which is called the waiver draft, and it was because of the work that I put in at training camp with the Outlaws. The Archers coach saw me play in one of the open scrimmages during training camp week, and he gave me an opportunity to come play for him. And while that may not have went how I wanted it to, in terms of playing time, things of that nature, I got to say that I did it. Got to be a part of a championship team, part of a championship roster, which I don't always feel like I earned, but I do. I am very thankful for that opportunity nonetheless.
You got a ring.
I got a ring.
Where's that ring?
The ring is in my office on my desk.
Man, you got to show it to me next time I'm down there.
I got you. I'll bring it
Right.
over.
You know? Um, so now adjustments. Every time you make a move, it's an adjustment, right?
Oh yeah.
Wagner, Ohio State, is it safe to say it was a night and day difference
Yeah,
athletically?
absolutely.
Now you go from Ohio State to the professional ranks. It was it
Hmm.
another night and day? Like, wow, it's a lot faster here.
Not at all. Not at
No.
all. Almost, no, I mean, I was fortunate enough to be a very athletic individual. I've never had a problem athletically fitting in, and that really did a lot for me. I'm able to physically assert myself on the field, which is what kind of got me to that point in the first place. So I just leaned into that and did all I could to be a bruiser, play hard, play fast, and put my head down and get to it.
So were you a bruiser out there knocking people around?
I tried my best. But yeah, no, I was a physical guy. I played short stick D mid, so you have to be physical. You don't have the 6 foot pole like the other defenders. You got to use your legs and your hands, and that's it.
But you can hit the guys with that stick.
Oh yeah.
Like, what's the rule behind that? Because I watched lacrosse on TV, and some of these guys are taking full swing whacks at them. Like, what are you allowed to do?
So you're supposed to target the hands and the gloves. Guys get hit all over though. Like yeah, after a game, bruise on my neck, bruise on my arms. Like it's a brutal game, no doubt about it. But it's a part of the game. So
Yeah,
that all that slashing and stuff that looks crazy to other people is just second nature to us lacrosse players. Kind of,
yeah,
pretty just another day on the
yeah.
field.
Now, is there a rule like if you hit a certain spot of the body, there's a penalty?
Definitely. Yeah. So any like excessive, like if you wind up and swing it like a baseball bat, you're
Yeah.
going to get a slashing penalty. So it happens pretty frequently. Anything to the head, if you're slashing a guy across his back, or you're winding up way back here and hitting somebody as hard as you can, it's most likely going to be a penalty. But there's also ways to work around that.
I think I asked you this in person when we met, but what's with the goalies and no leg pads?
It's crazy, right? I don't know how they do it because I take a shot, I'm down.
Yeah, I like, but they're allowed to wear them if they want, right?
Yeah, I guess maybe. I don't know. I've never seen a goalie wear leg pads, so
But
no,
but I
except for
don't.
like a youth goalie.
It makes no sense to me. Like every other, if you go to hockey, they're wearing leg pads, they're wearing whole body armor. I mean,
Yeah,
that
I
ball's
mean,
coming in just as fast as a hockey slap shot.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, those shots, that ball's coming around at 100 miles an hour, and it'll do some damage. But when you're in cage, I guess I can't speak to it because I've never done it personally, been a goalie. But those guys are locked in, and
Yeah.
I most goalies aren't trying to use their legs. Obviously it's inevitable they're going to get hit as their standing goalie position. But I wouldn't say that the pads will, if anything, hurt them by decreasing mobility.
Okay. Are they like six, looks like different breeds of guys, the
In
goalies?
term, oh yeah, yeah. Every goalie's got a little bit of a loose screw in
Yeah.
some sense. You have to stand in there seeing these 100-mile-an-hour shots,
Yeah.
but
It's like you're standing in front of a firing squad,
absolutely,
you
yeah,
know?
it's nuts.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you this, and I don't mean to point out who's the better player, but
hmm
is there any one player that stands out? They said, man, I just love playing with this guy.
I mean, I had a bunch of players who were, great players who I absolutely enjoyed sharing a field with. And right off the top of my head, I've got a good list of, you know, four guys who really made my fifth year in particular a great experience. And that was the other D mids, the other guys in my position.
Okay.
Yeah, they're Connor Camille, Greg Langermeyer, Blake Island, and Trent DeChico. We were called the Dog Pound, and
All
we were
right.
a tight knit group, hard workers, head down, kind of the same stuff that I've been talking about. And sharing a field with those guys and being able to be interchangeable in that position, and
Yeah.
no matter who was on the field, we were excelling at that position specifically. Having that
Yeah.
kind of support around me felt great because coming from Wagner, where I mentioned I was on the field 24/7. I didn't get the breaks. I didn't get any plays off, which I
Yeah.
was okay with. But at the same time, it prohibited me from performing at my best,
Yeah.
at my peak. So I'd say those guys were the most enjoyable to share the field with, and that's pretty much it.
All right. Good. Well, hey, you know what? I'm sure when they hear this, they'll be happy to hear that, right? So let me ask you this. Locker room, bus rides, plane rides, right? Tell me about that. What the experience like to be on a team in that type of environment.
Yeah, I mean, nothing quite like it, I mean, I've traveled to so many places that I would have never been just because of athletics in itself. And then to do it with your best friends, you know what I mean? It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's the highs and the lows of the college experience. Those 8 hour bus rides are gruesome.
Oh,
But if you go on an 8 hour bus ride and you get a win, that ride back is the best ride ever. You know what
oh
I
yeah.
mean? So it's
Oh
like
yeah.
just the ups and downs, the ebbs and flows of those experiences really go a long way. And some of my best memories, happened during travel, happened during me and my guys just being in a new place and
Yeah.
you know hanging out in a hotel room or something like that. Those memories will last a lifetime. So
That's a lifetime. So can you explain, like, and I ask this to everybody on the show, put yourself out on the field. I don't care if Wagner or Ohio State, doesn't matter. And you're having the game of your life, right? Can you explain how that feels? Not what you're doing, but how it feels
mhm.
internally when you're in that zone and things are this unbelievable and you're out there. Can you put that in a paragraphical description?
I'd struggle to.
Yeah. It's
I'd say
I think it's impossible.
yeah, I agree. It's the most out there, one of a kind feeling that you'll ever experience. At least in the student athlete experience, I'd
Yeah.
say. A lot goes into game day.
Yeah.
Mentally, physically,
Right.
emotionally, everybody's invested. So it's high stakes. High tempo, high intensity, and
Yeah.
it's just nothing like it. Nothing that can
Yeah.
match it. At least nothing that I've found yet since I
Yeah.
stopped playing. So.
It's I just say it's a euphoric state.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Absolutely. You don't even realize what's going on until it's over,
Yeah.
until you snap out of it. That's when you're like, oh wow, like that was real, that
Yeah.
was awesome.
It's like a drug. It's like
Oh
it's
yeah,
the endorphins, it's like crazy. The energy is flowing through you like electricity, you know? It's
in
crazy.
itself for sure.
Yeah. So you graduate from Ohio State, or you got your certificate from Ohio State, right? You graduated from Wagner. You spent 5 years, then you spent a year professionally. And then you decide, I'm going to go to Monmouth University and impact the athletes there. Talk about that choice. How did that come about? You know, what were you hoping to accomplish by taking that job?
Yeah, yeah. So I knew from, I won't say from day one, but I knew for a long time that I wanted to work in college athletics. That was my goal post grad,
Hmm.
was to work at the collegiate level, particularly Division I athletics, because of the experience that I had. So that was, easy for me in that sense. I had my mindset. I knew what I wanted to do, but had no idea where I was going to go, what I was going to do with it. Was doing everything I could in terms of networking out in Ohio State. Biggest alumni network in the country, one of the biggest maybe, but it was like I learned so much out there from some great
Yeah.
people. I got to talk to athletic directors. I got to talk to people from outside athletic engaged companies. Like everybody and anybody who I needed a conversation with, I could almost get a conversation with. So I was very supported in that aspect. In terms of the job search, it was challenging. Not a lot of opportunities in college athletics. You got to go where the jobs are.
Yeah.
And just coming out, I didn't get a job in college athletics. I was working with Harlem Lacrosse, which is a nonprofit that you know um, gives back to lower income communities through the sport of lacrosse. It creates a program to intervene and interact with the youth in inner cities, and I loved it. I was there, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. It wasn't my goal, and I was able to make an impact and be well in that. Still versed in lacrosse and things of that nature. I excelled at my job there, and then this opportunity came along, and it was due to Jen Sansevero, the athletic director at Monmouth. She was at Wagner for my first 2 years at Wagner, and
Okay.
she's been a mentor for me since my freshman year. She was the one who checked me along with my coach when I came in and got a 2.0. And ever since then, she's kind of just continued to mentor me, take me under her wing, and allow me to grow and develop and help me grow and
Yeah.
develop through questions, through watching her and how she interacts and those things. And then got a call one day saying, "Hey, there's a position opening up. Might be worth throwing your name in." And I did, and I interviewed just like everybody else did. I didn't get to skip the line just because I knew
Yeah.
someone, but it got me in the door. So
Yeah.
that's how I ended up at Monmouth, and now I'm here, and it's a dream come true. I get to support athletes the same way and in the same fashion that I was supported, and that I wouldn't be where I'm at right now. I wouldn't have succeeded or grown into the individual that I am right now without my support system in college. You know, so to be able to do that for current student athletes right now in this moment, while having the experiences that I have, and being able to kind of feed that to them so that they can
Yeah.
avoid the same mistakes that I made while also, excelling into their own individuals and becoming the best version of themselves.
Yeah. I mean, I can only imagine what they think, the athletes at Monmouth, when they hear your story, from where you came from to where you went and to where you are now. I mean, they can't look at you and say, well, what does he know? I mean, they got to look at you and say, look at everything he's done and does know. Because you went from, smaller D1 to massive D1 to professional ranks. What else are you going to do in the athletic world? So you can bring that experience right back and say, hey, this is how it goes, you know?
Yeah, and
So,
that's what I try to do every day.
so what are some of the challenges you're seeing these kids face today that are similar to what you dealt with, or but they're different, or maybe different?
Yeah, I mean, mental health will always and forever until the end of time until people are computers, and mental health will always be something that people have to deal with, you know. Um, we see it today. We saw it when I was a kid, when I was an athlete. Some people just really struggle with the transition to college. It can be a
Yeah.
culture shock, which is to be expected. It's a new lifestyle, new place, new city, new people, new everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that in itself, for our younger student athletes, we still see being a problem, as it's always been though. So nothing out of the ordinary there. Um, I'd say so. I work in academic support and student development specifically. Um, I'd say that some of the issues we're starting to see now are AI related. A lot of people taking the easy way out, or
Yeah.
trying to at least, and
Yeah.
that's breeding new problems every day on campuses nationwide. So not just at Monmouth, but in any athletic department or
Yep.
collegiate universe, whatever. Um, but yeah, no, it's interesting, and it's interesting being on the other side of it and helping
Yeah.
them navigate these situations.
Now, how do you see the AI stuff? Like, how do you catch it? Is it everybody comes back with a very similar paper or answer, or
So I don't grade the papers. I don't do any of that stuff. So that's really I have no idea. We just hear it from the professors.
yeah, yeah, that's got to be a challenge. I would
Oh
imagine
yeah,
that just like if everybody types in the same question, the AI's got to come back pretty much the same every time, I'm going to guess.
you'd think so, right?
Unless you say tweak it a little bit. I don't know. Well, let's use your life as an example. You struggled with your own belief, right? And
Hmm.
every time you went to the next level, it's like, oh, I'm doubting myself.
Right.
But you found a way to get over it and fight through it and come out on top. Are you seeing any kids now having the same issue that like you can actually see it and you can tap them on the shoulder and say, look, man, let me show you how to get through this?
Absolutely, absolutely. And my words of advice or encouragement to them is that they're exactly where they're supposed to be. If they weren't supposed to be a Division I athlete, if there isn't potential for them to get on that field, they wouldn't be here because the coaches wouldn't have chosen them. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
I do truly believe that if you are somewhere, you're there for a reason, and that it's up to you to make the most of that opportunity. But you can't make the most of that opportunity if you're sulking, pouting, crying, complacent,
Yeah.
those things. So I'd say that's the biggest is like focus on what's in front of you.
Yeah.
You can worry about what's happened. You can worry about what's gonna happen. But if you're worried about what's gonna happen and what already happened, you're not worried about what you're doing, you're just gonna continue to fail.
Yeah. I mean, that's just pure anxiety, right?
Absolutely.
You know, man. Well, the world is different. I mean, the world that you're in now with these young men and women is
Hmm.
different from when you were a freshman.
Oh yeah.
Like you said, you got the NIL pressure, you got social media pressure, you got
Hmm.
academic pressure, you got athletic pressure. I mean, there's just so much these 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds, whatever, can deal with at one time.
Oh yeah.
But I think I just think that the real world, for lack of better words, they forget how young these people are. You know,
Absolutely.
they forget that their minds are still growing. They don't understand what might be going on behind the door at home. You know, and
Absolutely.
sometimes when somebody just puts your arm around them and they get the feeling that hey, somebody really does care,
Hmm.
then all of a sudden things change.
Absolutely. Then, like that's what it took for me.
Yeah,
It's just knowing that I had support and that I was supported, even though I wasn't next to my parents, or next to
yeah,
my siblings. Like I had real support from real people. One of the biggest being Nicole Gaudenzi. She was in the athletics academic space when I was at Wagner, and without her, I don't know if I'd have made it through my 4 years at Wagner. She was a trooper and a champion. She was one of my champions. I like to think about like championing people. Who are your champions, and how can you continue to help them develop and grow? And she always championed me, talked highly of me, helped me reach those goals that I may have not thought I was capable of just by
sure.
being vocal in that.
Does she know that?
She knows that. Absolutely. We talk every day.
Beautiful. And you know what?
Yeah.
You can never tell someone that too much.
No.
You can never tell someone that like thank you too much.
100%.
Especially to those who aren't looking for it.
Yeah.
Like there's some people out there, Eli, like they're doing something, they're expecting something back.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? But for those who are like doing something just because they care and like you can see the appreciation in their eyes when you say thank you,
100%.
you know? So, okay, so I'm not going to ask you any names, but currently Monmouth athletes, where are you having more fun? Are you having more fun with the lacrosse team, the football team, the basketball team? Where are you having more fun with all these teams and the athletes that you're like, wow, these kids get it?
Yeah, so I work with all of our teams. We're a two-man team, so I oversee all 600 student athletes on campus, which can be a lot at times, but
Yeah,
I love it. I'm there, happy to support them. That said, I work in student development as well. So student development is what I love, what I enjoy. What brings me happiness on campus when I'm
yeah,
there. I work closely with our MSAC group, which is the Monmouth Student Athlete Advisory Committee. I'm sure you've heard of SAC before.
yeah,
Um, and I had a role in SAC when I was in undergrad, and then now being a SAC advisor from the staff side is probably the most enjoyable part of my job. I get to work with the student athletes who want to see change in the athletic department and who want
yeah.
to continue to grow and be the change, not only in our department, but also in our community and in all of the communities around us. Like
Yeah.
just a few weeks ago with that group, I'd say, well, first of all, this group led and raised more than $1,500 for Christmas shopping for a local school, and we were able to take care of 5 families this year and buy them Christmas gifts and things of that
Oh, that's
nature. So
great.
like those kinds of things, are irreplaceable, and just it's bigger. It's bigger than us. It's bigger than sports, and working with that group really makes that imperative and
Yeah.
true.
Now, from your position in your department, you said there's two people,
Yeah,
but 600 plus athletes.
yeah,
So how do you guys get support? Like who do you guys go to for help, when you need it in building out everything you're building? You got just you and one other person.
yeah. We're busy, but just like I was on a team the last 5 years before this, I'm on another team now.
Yeah.
We all do a lot to work and support with each other. I couldn't do my job without everybody else in the department. As forward facing as I am with our student athletes, I do get a lot of one-on-one time, more than most people in the department, which I
Yeah.
love. I speak to the athletes. I hear what they're feeling. I am able to bring those things to the necessary people's attention, and that I love that. But if I wasn't doing that, I wouldn't have anything to bring to my team, and
Yeah.
my team is doing everything they can to support me in these planning, programming, things of that nature. So it's
Okay.
it's a team effort. I don't take sole credit for any of my student athletes' successes.
So what are you excited about in the future of Monmouth Athletics?
Future. I mean, I'm excited. The NIL space and college athletics is just an ever changing space in
Yeah.
itself. It's never going to stop changing. It will forever and always continue to change, no matter
Yep.
what, no matter who, no matter where I'm at. No matter what role I'm in,
Yep.
something's going to be changing day to day. Um, what I'm excited for in Monmouth athletics, particularly, is just the growth. I think that with Jen Sansevero leading our athletic department, that there's nothing that we can't achieve. I truly believe that she's a great leader, and she takes care of our student athletes, but also our community.
Yeah.
And she's players first. So like we do everything that we can to just positively impact and develop our players and our athletes.
So what's next in facilities down there? I know they keep adding and developing and growing and building. Like what's next down there?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't dabble too much in that side of things, but
I mean, the
that
basketball arena is beautiful,
absolutely,
you know.
absolutely,
The football field, what they've done to that over the years it looks nice,
100%. We may
and
be getting some more practice facilities soon. Maybe I
okay.
don't want to speak out of line because I'm not sure, but
All right.
if I had to guess, I'd say that may be next
Okay. Maybe they'll get an indoor field,
potentially.
practice field. I mean, you need it
I
though. But
was gonna
again,
say being in the Northeast, I wouldn't
yeah,
mind.
it's a little cold. Hey, but
Absolutely,
come on, you got it made. You're what, half a mile from the beach?
Oh yeah, no, when the weather's nice, it's a great place to be.
Yeah,
That's for sure.
it's definitely beautiful. So let me ask you this question. I walk on campus, I pick 10 athletes. I don't care any 10. And I say, give me your description of Eli Fisher. What are you hoping they're going to say?
Everybody wants to be perceived in a positive light, so I could get on here and say a million things that I'd love to hear about myself. But honestly, all that I care about is that I'm making a difference and that these athletes feel supported by me. That's number one. I want to be a support. I want to continue to have student athletes leaning on me, because they don't always have somebody else that they can go to, as you mentioned earlier. So just to continue to be, people's rock if that's what they need, whether it's a conversation, a hug, we're talking shop, we're talking academics, it could be
Yeah,
anything. I just want my athletes to feel supported.
beautiful. So, what advice can you give to them about the transition out of sports, which is very difficult?
Yeah, yeah, that it is. It's a real challenge. I thought like I was confident. I thought I was going to do great, be everything else and more. And I had a harsh reality check when I left. I struggled with the physical aspect of things. I struggled with the mental aspect of things. As I mentioned, when I went to Ohio State, I put on 30 pounds. And, like I said, I've lost all that since, and I'm struggling still to continue to put on weight and maintain any weight that I did have. So, just getting back in the mindset of not being complacent and continuing to be the best version of myself. I'm doing great in work, but I'm letting these other things slide because I don't have the same responsibilities that I did.
Yeah.
So I would just say like continue working out for sure. You're an athlete, you have been your whole life. A lot's going to change, but if you can keep that consistent, it's going to do a lot of good things for you. And if you can find a way to work it into your schedule, it's going to really help you stay together and not lose that entire, sense of athletic identity that you did have. Because that's what I did. As soon as I finished playing pro and called it quits there, I stopped for a little while and I got down like to 168 pounds, which I hadn't seen since high school. So like, and I'm 6'1", so I was skinny. It's
And
really
it usually
skinny,
goes
and
the other way. You gain a ton of weight when you stop playing.
right, right. And for me, like I've always struggled to put on weight, so to do it at the end of my career was great. I loved it. I was happy. I was like, oh, I'll be able to ride this out for the rest of my life, and then a few months later, I'm I'm as skinny as a towel, and I'm a twig walking around and I'm lack confidence in myself. I felt like I was failing myself, that previous version of myself. I wasn't, meeting up to his expectations and
Yeah.
things of that nature. And, I'm fortunate enough to be blessed and to be in a great position to not have to worry about a lot of other things that a lot of people have to worry about. Like I said, when I came out of school, I was fortunate enough to not have one job, but two within my first 6 months out, and so like none of those stresses were there for me. It was all the physical aspect of it and the lack of confidence and that leading to my mental health also, not being the best.
Well, one thing I can tell you is you just have a burning metabolism. It probably burns 24 hours a day. It's
Yeah,
gonna slow down.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
I promise you, it will slow down. And when you turn older, forget what age it is, you'll be thankful that you're skinny.
Absolutely.
But
I'm
I
hoping
understand,
so.
but I understand now, like you want to get some good size to stay in good shape. But when you're pushing you 40 something and up, that's when you're gonna be thankful that you're naturally a thinner guy.
Definitely. I'm
You
sure.
know, you know.
That's what everybody keeps telling me. But right now,
Yeah, well, it's all about being fit right now, and being
100%.
being fit helps you mentally, without a
Yeah,
doubt, and
absolutely.
where there's a will, there's a way. You just get out of bed earlier, go to bed later, take a lunch break, figure it out, find the time. Everybody gets the same 24 hours.
Yeah,
It's just what do we do with it, right?
100%.
Well, Eli, we talked about a ton of stuff. We talked about, coming out of high school, going to Wagner, why you were at Wagner, transferring to Ohio State, leaving Ohio State, going professional, leaving professional, going to Monmouth, and kind of what's going on there. Is there anything we haven't touched on you think we should hit before we wrap it up?
Not much, I mean, we kind of, like you said, we touched on everything. I would just like continue to harp on like to the student athletes who are still in their prime, who are listening to this, be the best version of yourself every day. That's what's going to lead you to success and feeling good mentally, physically. That's what it takes, doing the best, doing the most. If you think you're doing enough, you can always do more. I found that out when I made that jump from Wagner to Ohio State. I thought I was doing enough because I was competing in the MAC. I was making a difference. I was first team in the MAC, and then I went there and I was like, oh, these guys are doubling, if not tripling, the amount of work that I'm putting in, and that's what allowed me to rise up to their level, and then going pro again, more work. So those things. So don't be complacent in what you're doing. You may have made it to Division 1, you may have made it to Division 2, 3, to collegiate athletics, whatever that looks like for you, but keep going. Job's not finished.
It's great advice.
Thank
Well,
you.
Eli, thanks for being on the show. Appreciate it. Your story's inspiring to all, and it's just beginning. You got so
Yes,
much
sir.
to do and accomplish, and so many people to impact. And for those that are listening, I personally had the experience of witnessing you in the act of being a leader at Monmouth, and I appreciate the fact you had us down there. And I just can't wait to see what else you're doing down there, and the impact you're making and where the athletic program is going to go and how it's going to grow with your leadership.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that. And, likewise, it's been a pleasure getting to know you and getting to work with you. I look forward to, bringing you guys back on campus in the fall, maybe even sooner than that. As we had mentioned, we got to have a conversation about that too. But
Yep.
yeah, I appreciate you taking the time and allowing me to be a guest on this podcast. I'm very, very lucky to be where I'm at, and even luckier to be here today. So thank you.
Well, it's my pleasure, and always stay strong.